are now tuned into the Money Level Show.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Money Level Show, where we think, act, and prosper. Today we're with the great Tony Reda, and so who's with Tectonic Metals. And so Tectonic Metals is an exploration company, which we're going to have Tony share more about, and we're going to talk about the macro environment and all these different things. So you're in tune for a treat. So Tony, how you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
That's good. That's good. Appreciate you.
How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. You
Yeah?
know, I'm trying to get my voice going and everything. You know, it's a long night. Long night, right?
I can relate.
Yeah, so tell us more about your experience and what led you to this point with Tectonic Metals.
Yeah, there's a bit of a story, as there always is, but essentially, I was 21 years old. It was 1995, and I decided to buy my first mining stock. And for better or for worse, I made a bit of money, and I thought I had it all figured out. Well, turns out I didn't. I lost a boatload of capital, and I actually wrote off the mining space. And so fast forward to 2005, I decided to give it another go. And the first company that I joined, I was the second hire, was with that company for 11 years. And we grew that from a $3 million gold exploration company right through to a $520 million company in the span of 11 years. And in addition to the $520 million sale of the company, we found 5 million ounces of gold. We raised $165 million in capital, and it was a success by, on all fronts. And so Tectonic is now the brainchild that came out of all those experiences, not just the success with the company, but also my investing experience. What could I do differently? And that's what the shift in the game embodies, is like looking at the mineral exploration space more on the business side. And, is there a better way to operate? Is there a better way to be? And so Tectonic's now been public for about 5 years. We're a $35 million market capitalization company, and we're on the cusp of launching our first drill program on this asset, which is very reminiscent of that discovery we made back with the original company. So it's quite an exciting moment in the company's history.
Nice. So so for the audience, could you explain the difference between like the exploration and the mining and drilling and such?
Yeah, so exploration, essentially what we try to do is we spin the globe and try to find the next mine. That's a geological exercise or an exploration exercise. People sometimes confuse exploration with mining. Exploration feeds mining. So mining is an engineering exercise, not an exploration exercise. It's how do you get the gold out of the rock? How do you get the gold out of the ground, and all that? And it's a production scenario, and it's a cash flowing scenario. Whereas exploration is a capital intensive capital spending. We don't generate capital or make money. We raise capital and deploy it to fund our ideas and the exploration efforts.
Nice. That makes a lot of sense. How do you manage geopolitical risks in terms of exploration and things of that nature? I know that some companies, who open mines in areas where there may be more tension, yes, or we can think of a lot of different nations.
Sure.
So how do you manage geopolitical risks?
Yeah, so a very strong component of our business model is centered around risk management, and that stems from my years of experience as an investor, but also with our companies. We have to recognize that when you build a mine, you're not building a playground. There's going to be an environmental impact, and that's, so how do you manage that? And so you have to work in areas that are pro-mining, per se. And so the way we manage that is we work in jurisdictions that we believe are pro-mining. We also work in areas, we prefer to work on native-owned land. So we specifically work in Alaska on native-owned land. And when I say we work on native-owned land, it actually starts with a discussion or a conversation with the local communities, with the native corporations, and say, okay, are you open to mining? Are you open to working together? And if we don't get alignment on day one, we don't pursue that opportunity. So we manage risk by working predominantly on native-owned land where there's an agreement in place. So we have a legally binding production agreement on all our assets. And the native corporation that we've partnered up with, they're a for-profit plus $1 billion entity. They're the largest private landowner in the state of Alaska. And they were so impressed with how we operated and conducted ourselves in the field and also with the communities that they elected to become a shareholder in our company via several strategic investments. So that to me is like, again, the perfect example of trying to get alignment on day one. We also manage risk in the rock. So exploration, trying to find the next mine is a very risky endeavor. 1 in 1,000 projects become a mine. So there's also things that you can do on the exploration front. And to that point, we do metallurgy, which can make or break most mines. We do that as quickly as possible. And this project that we're about to drill had historical drilling, and we might be the only junior mining company that's ever done metallurgy before even initiating a drill program. So those are some of the things that we do to mitigate risk at the get-go.
So what drew you to Alaska? So being an exploration company, what drew you to Alaska?
So what drew us is the mineral, first, the mineral potential. I prefer to work in North America. There's a flight to safety, not just by investors, but also by major mining companies. There's also a movement here to have homegrown resources. What the war in Ukraine has taught us is that, we need these minerals. We need that here in our country, or in Canada or in the US. So Alaska ticked that box. From a mineral endowment perspective, it's completely underexplored. There's 7 producing mines in the state, and there's tier 1 deposits. So there's evidence to support that this state can produce large-scale deposits that major mining companies want. So that drew us in. Secondly, we wanted to work directly with these native corporations. We thought this is a much more streamlined approach to exploration, and the native corporations that own massive tracts of land, if they want to partner with us, that we can streamline a project from, say, exploration into production more efficiently and more collaboratively with native corporations. So those are some of the reasons why we jumped into Alaska.
Yeah, nice. So what do you think the audience or retail investors should know about Tectonic? So like, obviously there's a lot of different ways you can invest in gold. You have streaming, you have exploration, you have mining, junior mining. There's different ways that you can invest in that. Yeah. And so, and I imagine that the exploration, it has a tremendous upside potential, being, being just a small, smaller market cap. Usually like the smaller market cap stocks can triple, quadruple, whatnot. And so like, what about Tectonic, in terms of just like, when people are selecting which exploration company to invest in, like, what do you feel Tectonic brings to that table? Yeah,
that's actually a great question. So I would say what we bring to the table is we have native supports. We actually have native shareholders, as I mentioned earlier. I don't think there's any company here on this floor that has that. So to build a mine, you need support from the local communities, yes, from your shareholders, but you also need support from the stakeholders. And so getting that endorsement as vis-a-vis an investment in our company, that's completely unique and actually very groundbreaking to have that. Our projects also have production/impact benefit agreements all in one. So if we can, if we are successful, we have an agreement that we can run with into production. The other thing to note about Tectonic is that our team has done it before. I think it's, obviously you can make discoveries and not know what a mine, it can happen, but the point is, in order to find a mine, you got to know what one looks like. I always say it's kind of the equivalent of trying to find Tom Brady or Michael Jordan at the age of 10. You got to know what a superstar athlete looks like. What are the talents, the skills, the traits? So our team collectively, we found or have been involved with the discovery of 35 million ounces of gold. We've taken projects from grassroots, never been drilled before, right through into production. So we know the process. It's also the equivalent, I say, like, if I was trying to describe to you what chocolate tastes like, if I've never tried the chocolate, how can I describe it? If you've never tried it, it's a hard thing to understand. So we have the experience where we can recognize a superstar athlete right from the get-go. We know what one looks like, what one smells like, and we can advance it. So I think our team's track record of finding gold is 35 million ounces. That box is ticked. Our team also has the track record of raising capital. I've been involved in over $200 million of capital being raised. Collectively, our team, probably over $1 billion. That's important. You know, that's what puts gas in the car. If you don't have gas, you ain't going nowhere. Well, now you have electrification, so that's another conversation, but you get the gist of it. Our team has also permitted projects. Our chair is actually an environmental biologist. And I can tell you, I don't know anyone here at this conference that has an environmental biologist on their board. And not only is she an environmental biologist, but she's been involved in the permitting of 9 mines. So she's a great example that, you know, the environment and mining can coexist, and it can be done, you know, effectively and efficiently. So permitting, the ability to having permitting experience, local community experience, being able to raise capital, being able to find gold, and last but not least, one of our founders is actually a mining entrepreneur. She actually currently owns and operates a mine, so she knows what a mining scenario looks like. So that's kind of what we bring to the table. I think that is slightly different than most companies.
So what is this like? I don't necessarily understand. You know, how does this process play? Like, how do you even find an area to like even speculate or say like, we think there's gold in the ground?
Yeah.
Like, how do you get from here? Like me, I just walk on the, you know,
yeah.
We walk on the ground every day. Like,
yes.
Like,
yeah.
How do
Where's
y'all,
gold?
How
Where's
do y'all
gold?
get to that?
Well, so there's a multitude of ways to get there. So there's not just one path. I'll give you a flavor of what we sometimes do. Sometimes we launch these huge technical science initiatives where we're looking at structural faults, tectonic plate activity, where could mineral deposits form? Okay, and that's great. So that's one path. The other thing that we do, they say the best place to find a mine is next to a mine. So start with existing mines. Look for geological similarities within a certain, you know, kilometer radius of an existing mine. This project that we have called the Flat Gold Project, I tend to fancy certain projects or certain mines for various reasons. And I simply asked the question to myself and then to my team and then to my native partner. I said, hey, is there another Donlin gold deposit in this mineral belt? So Donlin currently is the 5th largest gold deposit in the world. It's about 40 million ounces of gold. It's owned by Barrick and Nova Gold. And I was like, it's hosted in this mineral belt. And I was like, what else is in this mineral belt? So the first thing I did is I pulled up the claim maps, looked at, there's sometimes you can pull up through the USGS, that's the United States Geological Survey. You can pull out like known mineral occurrences, plot that all up. And I called my native partner and I said, hey, what do you have for land in this mineral belt? And they said, oh, we got this project that Robert Freeland with Fairbanks Gold worked on back in the 80s. Do you want to take a look at it? And so I was just like, okay, well, he's a very well-known mining billionaire, Hall of Famer. I was like, okay, let me start looking. And that process led me to acquiring this project. And when I started looking at the data for this project, it's in the 4th richest placer mining jurisdiction in the entire world. So 4th richest placer mining jurisdiction in Alaska. So there's a mineral footprint. There's geological evidence such as golden soil, so 55 historical drill holes that all hit gold. So that's kind of how that project came to fruition. So, you know, sometimes look for analogs to existing mines, look close to mines. Sometimes you're looking at large structural faults where deposits can form. So it's definitely a scientific exercise. And, you know, it's exciting if you're kind of like, it's like treasure hunting. You know, if you have that ilk, then it sort of just kind of comes naturally.
Thank you for explaining that. That's something I've always kind of wondered, and so I appreciate the explanation. So where can the audience find out more information about Tectonic Metals?
You know, obviously the website is one of the best spots, you know, www.tectonicmetals.com, our email info@tectonicmetals.com, so you can reach out directly to the company. We love interacting with potential investors and shareholders, but that's a great first pass. There's a presentation on our website that can walk you through. We also have a LinkedIn and a Facebook page where we post a lot of newsworthy, notable events within the company or the industry for that matter.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on the show. Everyone, be sure to go check out the website, check out the information that Tony has blessed us with today, and appreciate you for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.